we are all yours for our, I think this is your last Sunday this month with us. Is
Yes.
that so? Okay.
All right. Well, hello and welcome, and thank you for uh, inviting me to share in your spiritual community and communion. I'd like to begin my time by continuing in the meditative, contemplative mood, beginning of the service, by taking some time to go a little bit deeper into meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position. Begin to feel, notice your breath. Recognize always that our breath connects us, all life on earth, to the earth itself. Breathe in and breathe out the one same atmosphere that is warmed by and lit by the one sun. So as we breathe, we are experiencing our oneness as well as the rhythm of life, the energy of life. So we notice that energy not only in our lungs, but flowing through our whole body. Energy is a vibration and a warmth that fills this body form and surrounds it. Wherever we direct our attention, there is that life, that energy, that rhythm. Notice the radiance of that energy in our face. Feel it in our shoulders, our arms, our fingertips. Feel it and experience it as light, torso, legs, feet. Feet rest on the earth, on indigenous land, as we say in your opening blessing, consciousness. Our feet touch the same earth that all people have touched from the beginning of human life. Same earth that is touched by all creatures. This earth has an energy of its own, just as the sun does. We may think of ourselves as suspended between these two fields of energy, the earth and the heavens. In this consciousness of oneness, we recognize the fundamental unity of the universe, the fundamental unity of reality, and we recognize that reality as divine mind. When we turn within and become still to receive wisdom, consciousness returns to its source, and we receive guidance. We recognize this infinite presence as intelligence, life, substance, and love. We recognize it as harmonious, complete, and perfect. So we hold our bodies and the bodies of those we know and love. We hold these bodies in the consciousness of what they are as expressions of divine life, divine mind, divine love. In this consciousness, we know there is nothing to fear. In this consciousness, we know that our lives and the universe are unfolding in perfect harmony and order, even when we do not see it, even when things seem less than perfect. we hold to the truth. And in holding to the truth and directing our attention to the divine presence, the principle of good, principle of life, love, substance, and wisdom, we turn our attention to that underlying reality. Our lives are transformed. Our troubles are dissolved. We rest in the consciousness of pure being and the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. We move through our world serene in that consciousness, knowing that all is well and all is well and all shall be well. We hold this as our truth as we join together to share in some ideas of truth, to support each other in the consciousness of the divine presence. This consciousness is a consciousness of joy and gratitude, and we accept our good right now. And so it is. Amen. My final topic for this series, as you bring your attention back from within, my final topic for this series on ultimate concerns is there life after life? For my whole life, I have known that I am I. Everything about me has continually changed, except for that knowing that I am I. My body has continually changed. My feelings, my perceptions, my thoughts, continual flow of change. But my consciousness that I am I has never changed. For my whole life, I have known that I am I. Everything has continually changed except that knowing that I am I. But what will happen to that I when I die? Most people around the globe and throughout history have believed that a personal consciousness survives death. Because the world population is so much greater today than ever before, there are more people who believe in an afterlife than there have ever been. But also, because there are more people than ever before, and consciousness changes and evolves, there are more people than ever before who also do not believe in a life after life. Science, by equating brain function with consciousness, has cast doubt on the belief that consciousness survives the end of brain functioning. The truth, of course, is not revealed by majority belief. It's not even revealed by science necessarily. Yet it is something worth considering, this intuition, this intuitive faith in life after life that seems so enduring and pervasive. If there's more to life than this brief span on Earth, then there is far more to what we are than body and brain. About a year ago, the Pew Research does a great deal of research on religious beliefs and that sort of thing. Pew Research did a study of beliefs in the United States. The numbers worldwide in different nations varies from the beliefs, for example, in the United States. But the study I saw was of the United States. I'd like to share a little bit from that, just to get a sense of what is the collective consciousness about life after life. So one of the questions they asked was about belief in heaven and hell. According to the research, among all United States adults, 61% believe in heaven and hell, and 26% don't believe in either. It's not really surprising that belief in heaven is more popular than belief in hell. Of those who believe in some kind of afterlife in the United States, 33% believe in reincarnation. And this number includes some of the people who also believe in heaven and hell. Another interesting point from the research is that young adults are more likely to believe in reincarnation than older adults. Well, so much for religious beliefs, the percentages. It's interesting, but it tells us a little more than the hopes or intuitions or faith of people regarding life after life. As for the concepts of heaven and hell and reincarnation, I'll come back to that a little bit later. First, we ought to consider the question, sort of the larger question of life after life. Is there something beyond this life, if you will? Is there any evidence for consciousness surviving the end of brain functioning, which we call death? You are no doubt aware of accounts of near death experiences and reincarnation memories. I'm sure you all have read about that. The accounts of these two types of human experience really are the closest thing we have to what we might call empirical evidence of an afterlife. I'd like to look a little bit at those ideas before we move on. First, the near death experiences. You may or may not be aware that there's an International Association for Near Death Studies that studies these sorts of things. The initials spell out IANDS, IANDS, International Association of Near Death Studies. So you could look up IANDS and read various accounts and information about these near death experiences. IANDS is a nonprofit professional research and support organization, and it is international. They have collected accounts of near-death experiences since 1981, and their archives contain over 600 such accounts. Near-death means that a person's heart has stopped for a time and risk of death is imminent. Okay. So these are experiences when the heart has stopped, and the risk of death, it says, is near imminent. That's the basic definition. Research at 25 different hospitals internationally reported in 2022 that there is no brain activity during reported near-death experiences. In other words, there was vivid consciousness, but no heartbeat, no brain functioning. Some people have had something like near-death experiences, but there was still brain functioning. So these reports are from people who were, by all possible measurements that we have, clinically dead, and yet they had vivid experiences of consciousness that they reported. Now, you're probably familiar with this, but I'll just go over it really briefly. Near-death experiences, what their common features are. Consciousness, there's an experience of the consciousness rising out of the body and witnessing what is happening around the body. Of course, in most of these cases, that witnessing is in a hospital, but there also have been cases of people having this experience while, for example, after an accident, before the emergency vehicles get there, and that sort of thing. Right? So anyway, first thing, the consciousness rising above the body, witnessing what is happening, then and entering into a kind of tunnel, and often hearing a kind of music, and literally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That expression that we have, they're literally seeing this as, and they see it or they describe it as a compassionate being of light. They have an experience often of entering into a beautiful place, and the beautiful place has been described in various ways. But in this place and in this state, their senses are more intense, and their thinking processes are quicker. In many of these cases, the consciousness experiences a reunion with some loved ones who've passed on before. There's often a panoramic review of their life, in which they witness or feel the effects that their lives have had on others. The Tibetan Book of the Dead reports this idea of the life review and says there's nothing to fear in it because it is a projection of your consciousness. In any case, the response to the experience is that many want to stay in this pleasant realm of light, but are told that they must return. They have more to do. Others have reported that they wanted to return so they could change their life or complete some task. Many, many years ago, I met a woman who had such an experience, and her experience was that as she was consciousness has risen above the body, her body, she prayed because she prayed to return to her physical life until she could at least finish raising her children. She lived some, I guess, 60 years at least after that experience. Obviously, in all of these accounts, the consciousness returns into the body. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the account. Now, research conducted by teams from multiple European universities with a sample size of over 1,000 from 35 different countries concluded that about 10% of people have had a near-death experience. I find that figure astonishing, but that's what they came up with. 10% of people have had such an experience, which means a lot of people aren't reporting them, right? I have personally met many who have had or known someone who has had a near-death experience. In fact, the first such account I heard was when I was in Boy Scouts, which I'm sure you can tell by looking at me was a long time ago. It was at least a decade before any such accounts were published. And the account was very much like the accounts that were published later. A friend of mine told me about his aunt who talked about having this experience. Now, the scientifically oriented are always trying to find a physical brain explanation for the phenomenon. But as I mentioned, the recent research has shown that there isn't any brain function during these experiences. So that's one kind of experience that provides evidence for hope of something beyond this life, if that's the kind of thing you hope for, right? The other type of evidence, as I mentioned, for life after life is in research of past life memories. It's an interesting gentleman who actually was born in Montreal, by the way. His name was Ian Stevenson. He's a professor of psychology at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. He held that position for some 50 years and had taught psychiatry before that. Well, Ian Stevenson investigated cases of children who reported past life memories. He researched it for decades. He found some 3,000 cases, right? And his work was continued by associates, people who had been working with him. So this kind of research, I take it, is still going on. The age range of these past life memories was usually between the ages of 2 and 5 years old. Well, there were a few later, and some of the memories of the experiences start to fade around the age of 7. So it's interesting that children seem to be having these memories. In many cases, the children's statements corresponded accurately to the life and death of actual individuals. Not in all cases, but in many cases. There's some quite startling ones. There was one child who remembered being a World War II pilot who was shot down and drowned. The boy's memories actually helped researchers find a man who fit that detailed description of his life and death that was reported by the child. Jim Tucker, who is an associate of Ian Stevenson, has also written books on this phenomena. He reported a striking case. A 5-year-old boy remembered being a Hollywood extra and talent agent. The child actually recognized the man that he had been in a picture in a book about Hollywood. He saw himself in a scene with various actors. And he said, that's who I was. So after his memories were recorded, mostly initially by his mother, a search was done to see if they could find out who the man was in the picture that the boy identified. And they found out who it was, and his life story fit the details of the life remembered by the child. Okay, remember, this is a 5-year-old, right? The man had died 40 years before the child was born. The details included such things as that this man had had a younger sister, 3 adopted sons, and a daughter, that he was a talent agent and a movie extra, that he lived in a big house with a pool, that he had a green car that he allowed no one else to drive, that he had a sunglasses collection, that he did not like FDR, that he had traveled a lot in Europe and that he died at age 61. The child remembered all of these things, and all of these things were accurate. They actually found the man and knew what his name was, right? The child was also taken to Hollywood, and he recognized many of the places that were frequented by his former incarnation. Now, I think it's pretty clear that a 5-year-old could not have researched all of these details to fool investigators, right? Well, interestingly, Stevenson was very sort of hesitant to say that his research was conclusive about reincarnation, but he did assert that it was suggestive, that reincarnation and past life memories should be taken seriously. Now, I want to look at this from a metaphysical perspective, of course. But do these life after life reports fit what we would expect from a mystical and metaphysical perspective? So let's review a little bit the mystical, metaphysical understanding of reality. First of all, mind is the ultimate reality. Infinite mind and its ideas are the reality of the universe. That's the idealist metaphysical perspective, worldview on the universe. It's the mystical worldview as well. Consciousness, in other words, is the basis of perceived events. It's not the other way around, as we usually take it, that what we perceive is the cause of consciousness. It's actually the other way around. Consciousness is the basis of what we perceive. Where there is no observer, nothing happens. This is according to, of course, physics. Relativity theory tells us that time is relative to the observer. Quantum physics tells us that the tiniest events in the universe, so-called quantum events, do not happen until they are observed. And that's why many of the most prominent physicists of the past century have concluded that the universe is not material, it's mind stuff. The universe is not material, it is mind stuff, it is spiritual. And so from this perspective, each individual mind must be a part of and one with a universal mind. Since this universal, this infinite mind is an eternal, individual minds, our minds must logically be one with that eternity. There must be more to our lives, to our consciousness, than just what we experience in a particular lifetime. The core of individual consciousness is the knowing that I am I. This knowing is more than a verbal proposition. It's an immediate, unchanging intuition, experience that is attached to and witnessing passing, transient thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. It witnesses memories of the past as well as the present, you might say, flowing into the future. This I am experiences an anticipation of where the flow will go. We sometimes anticipate what is going to happen. This consciousness that I am I is indestructible because it is linked to the fundamental absolute reality of divine mind. If you think about your life, if you remember your life, you know that throughout your life, you've had this sense of identity, this I am I, no matter what else was changing. You have that sense right now, in fact. Whatever else may be going on, there's always behind it this background, I am I. So this I am I, according to our metaphysical and mystical understanding, this I am I is capable of experiencing union with the essential state of the universal mind. So this is what mystics describe, this experience of what is called variously nirvana or divine union. This experience as an experience of absolute unity, absolute love, bliss, an expansion of knowledge, a kind of knowing the truth of everything, right? In sort of one kind of experience. It's experienced as a dissolution of a sense of separation from the whole, or separation, a sense of separation from God. It's dissolved in this experience of this absolute mind, this absolute reality. So, from my studies, I've arrived at certain conclusions for myself. I'm convinced by my in depth studies of philosophy and New Thought and mysticism, and my acquaintance with the writings of many of the greatest physicists of the past century, that the universe is spiritual, not material. Pure consciousness and pure being have no beginning, and they do not change, and they have no end. The nature of the I am I is pure consciousness of being within us. Whatever else we may experience in this flow of events, the I am I, this pure consciousness of being, remains within us. The I am I is one with God, we might say. It is essentially God, that infinite pure consciousness being. The I am I is unchanging, has no beginning and no end. That life in us does not die because life, in its essence, is consciousness of being, which is one with God. What then becomes of this I am when the body stops functioning? Its consciousness, the consciousness of the I am, detaches from the earthly body, for the body is burned or dissolves. The body, in effect, returns to the earth. The I am has never changed through all bodily changes. It does not change with the dissolution of the body. Yet this I am I must continue to have experiences of some kind, for its very nature is to experience, to channel and witness the manifestations of the infinite possibilities of divine mind. So I suspect that, I'm actually pretty convinced that near-death experience accounts of detachment from the body idea are basically true. I suspect that some identities, if you will, experience reunion with individuals they loved, although, of course, it would not be in this sort of what we experience as physical form in this dimension. I suspect that some may be reincarnated, and some may merge directly into the infinite consciousness, detaching from the sense of individual personality and memories, and entering into that state called nirvana or divine union that's been described by the mystics of the world. To me, that is the highest state of consciousness being. And I believe it's the ultimate goal of the I am I. And that goal is a place that we will eventually return to. The nature of infinite mind also is oneness, interconnectedness. Its very essence is infinite love. I believe that the concepts, religious concepts of heaven, are products of hope in the human imagination. I believe they are imagined. Likewise, the concept of hell is a product of human imagination based on a sort of vengeful, primitive idea of justice. So I don't think that the religious ideas of heaven and hell are accurate descriptions of afterlife experience. I think they are imagined based on one kind of feeling or another. Infinite love, the infinite mind, is compassionate and forgiving, not vengeful. So it doesn't make any sort of sense at all if we understand the omnipotent to be benevolent, as most religions claim. It doesn't make any sense that that infinite benevolence would create that idea of hell that comes from the human imagination, or would send a soul to that place. But something is experienced. So what I believe fundamentally is that because God is love, which everyone says, all religions teach, God is love. Whatever will happen for each individualized consciousness of the one mind will be for the best and highest good of the I that I am. And so in this, there is nothing to fear. There is rather a kind of journey, this life journey that we're on. I believe is a process of divine self-realization, the infinite mind knowing, experiencing possibilities, but ultimately to move toward a state of full self-realization. We, as individuals, each are emanations from the divine mind, from that infinite source. So the life journey, simplest possible terms, is like the story of the prodigal son. It is a going to the far country of sense consciousness, and then a returning to the Father's house. All that the Father has is ours. Or again, it's like the story of Israel, the nation of Israel, going into slavery in Egypt and then returning to the freedom of the promised land. The journey of life is the return of individualized consciousness to its original home, the one infinite consciousness. Every step we take for realizing the presence of God within us, every prayer, every meditation, every act of kindness, every expression and expansion of wisdom and compassion, every moment of giving is a step of return to the source of our being. So I conclude, be strong and of good courage as you continue your progress home to enter into that promised land. Thank you.